Yeah, I have to fix this. It broke. See, it came undone, so in addition to everything else, it's some small home repairs. Okay. She eats everything in sight. She'll eat all the other dog's food if you let her. But I found her at Laguna. I was at the tribal building and she was laying under the bench in front of the tribal building. And she was hungry. So I brought her home and they were instant buddies. So I know what it's like to be on food stamps. I know what it's like to get health care from the Indian hospital. I just know what it's like for families like mine. And I don't think the people who are working to knock people off of food stamps know what it's like to be on food stamps. So it seems to me that they shouldn't make those kinds of decisions if they don't know what it's like to live that way. And so I decided to run.
The first thing I jumped to was, wow, we have a Pueblo Indian running for office. And that was my first thought. And my second thought was, go research her. Great, she's Native, but what does she really care about? Is she gonna fight for me? Is she gonna fight for our people? Is she gonna fight for money for her own camp in the Democratic Party? What does she fight for? It was great to see that she was a candidate, but it was more important to me to see what she stood for.
I am not running because I'm a Native woman. It's who I am, and so I will continue to say that yes, my perspective about issues having to do with this district in our state are the values that I care about, that Native people care about, that working people care about, and people want somebody they can identify with.
In the history of this country, any guesses out of 11,000 people that have served in the United States Congress, how many women of color have served? Anybody? 67 women of color. That's it. 67 women of color have ever served in the United States Congress. And the importance of this isn't just that a picture looks better because you've got a woman of color in it. It always does, by the way. We're in it. But really that we bring a whole different lived experience. We do understand coalition building. We do understand that it's about everybody in the picture, not just the people at the very top or the people that are the loudest, but white, black, and brown, gay and straight, young and old, immigrant or not. Everybody is part of this winning coalition to lift all of us up. And that's who Deb Haaland is.
Hi, how are you? I'm Deb Haaland. I'm running for Congress. How are you?
He recently broke his collarbone, so
Oh, dear.
we're having a good day inside.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm so sorry about that. Well, I hope you have health care.
We do.
Okay, well, that's one of the things we're
Yes.
fighting for. I know, isn't it lovely?
So lovely.
There's a noise inside. Sorry.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi there.
Deb Haaland.
Okay.
Have you voted yet?
No, I haven't voted yet.
Will you vote early?
I don't know whether I want to vote. There's nobody to vote for.
You can vote for me. I'm standing right here.
Well, yes, I understand that, but everyone says something when they get elected, before they get elected, or when they get elected, so it's different.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I have a track record for working extremely hard in everything that I've ever done.
Well, yes, we have people in Washington working very hard at enriching themselves and their sponsors. And
Right.
That's not something that does it.
Well, one thing that I pledged not to take any corporate PAC money, so I don't take corporate PAC money, I don't take fossil fuel money, I don't take big pharma money.
Well, all right, so let me
all
have
of
your
those.
literature then. That's a good thing.
I've been an organizer for almost 20 years right here in New Mexico, getting our underrepresented communities to have a voice in our politics. And representation matters. It matters in our state. It matters across our country. It matters immensely. We worked really hard to build a coalition of women, college students, the Hispanic population, the Asian population, African Americans, Native Americans. And I actually got a lot of support from the LGBTQ community, which I'm so grateful for. I did.
She started grassroots organizing when I was very young. I think without her necessarily like being the face of a campaign, I got used to being in the political world at a pretty young age.
Being a single mom, I think about how it's influenced my daughter's life. She's been campaigning with me since she was 9. My perspective is formed because of my history, and I feel confident that I can fight for the values of New Mexicans because of that. One of these days, I will build an oven outside. And then I can just bake things out there.
And you'll have the neighbors calling the fire department like they did on Graham.
My grandfather, he bought my grandmother a house in the subdivision in Winslow, Arizona when they worked on the railroad. And he built her a mud oven. And the first time she fired it up, someone called the fire department. And the truck, came screaming down the street. And then my grandmother was like, "I'm just baking bread. What's wrong with you people?"
Growing up on the res and experiencing that type of small community where everyone takes care of each other, coming from that humble and almost like simple structure where you like take care of each other and you take care of the land and there's like so much respect for everybody, that's necessary to bring into politics. People need to hear more voices of people who come from those sorts of communities.
This is the Navajo Nation chapter of To'Hajiilee. It's one of the Native American communities that I have in District 1.
How many people are out here?
There's about 1,000 voters out here. Fewer than 1,000, but there's a lot of needs for this community. Every time it rains, their school floods. So I'll dig in as soon as I can. So one thing about Navajo people is that they love elections.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to each and every one of you for coming out and showing your support. And I believe as Indigenous women, we are so fortunate to live in both the modern world and the traditional world, and to intertwine those worlds, to come up with new ideas and new ways to make a better future for our people. And as Deb Haaland hopefully is elected today, that will be a step towards everyone taking us Native Americans seriously. Thank you so much for taking that initiative and being a leader for our people. And as Mayaj said here, making history.
Thank you all so much. I am honored. The Native American people have, they haven't been asked to have a seat at the table for a long time and often. So I realize what this election means to me as the first Native American woman in Congress, and I want to just assure you that I am honored and will work very hard to be a voice for this community. So thank you all for being here. This means a tremendous amount to me. Today is going to be a long day, and I'm so proud and honored to start it right here. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, this is for you.
Oh, tawa
Pretty?
mo.
Oh,
met
those
the
are
wise.
and that's for you.
Oh.
And I'll give one to Denise.
Amo, you deserve it. I'm glad he said some prayers for you.
Yes,
Oh,
they both
tawa
did.
Tawa amo ma'am school naman. Ano na ti? Excuse Johnny, tawa Finally, I finally could go to sleep then.
It's mind-boggling, really, to me, that
anyone would want to do it, first of all. It's like a huge responsibility, I think, to represent a state. And not only that, to have your vote count for everybody. I mean, this has been in the making her whole life. You know, she's always been an activist. She's always stood up for her friends. She's always done the right thing when it comes, I mean, when she sets her mind to something, she does it all the way. She doesn't give up on anything.
And I'm just so proud because she's doing what she wanted to do. And I know she's going to do an outstanding job. I'm just all full of butterflies right now. And I'm as bad as Zoe. I cry right away, too.
It's a wonderful time to be a woman because I think so many of us have found, you know, this courage and the strength and the tenacity and all of those things to just keep working hard regardless, right? I mean, a lot of us have faced an uphill battle in many ways, and then, you know, right off the bat, I'm sure it's happened in a lot of campaigns. There were a lot of folks telling me that I couldn't raise the money, right? That you'll never raise the money to win a congressional race. And not only did we win, we crushed it on, right? So tomorrow, no matter what the polls say, I'm working extremely hard. I'm going to get out every single voter I possibly can, and we'll see what happens.
It's time for a new voice to be heard on Capitol Hill, and for all of the young folks out there to know that change is possible and that their voices do matter. And tonight, I am incredibly proud to call her my next representative in Congress. Please welcome Deb Haaland!
Mexico couldn't vote. Can you believe that? Growing up in my mother's Pueblo household and as a 35th generation New Mexican, I never imagined a world where I would be represented by someone who looks like me. Tonight, New Mexico, you are sending one of the very first Native American women to Congress. Never heard a voice like mine, but when the 116th session of the United States House of Representatives convenes, it will hear my voice.
Madam Chair, before I get started, could I ask for a point of personal privilege to have the members of this institution in the gallery recognize you as the first Native American woman to ever chair the House proceedings?